LIB presents Try Not to Cry Challenge by Josh Gonzales. Copyright year 2021 by Joshua De Jesus and Life is Beautiful Printing Corporation. Performed by John Vincent Hoson. Level 10. I will come to you like the first snow. My brother has a borderline personality disorder. The reporter in front of me gasped. A disorder, you said? He said as though it caught him off guard. I looked around, making sure nobody was eavesdropping. When I made sure everyone inside the coffee shop was busy minding their own business, I rerouted my eyes to the man in front of me, whose eyes were inquiring. My eyes landed on his ID, which had a reporter text printed below his name. I smiled. Yes, a disorder. His eyes grew wild. Is it okay to include that in the article? It'll be big news, yes, but it might make you uncomfortable. If you want, I'll edit that out. It would be okay, I said. I personally said it, so it's okay. Besides, I want to take this opportunity to raise awareness about mental health. This interview might blow up and become a tool for mental health programs. Who knows? That's cool of you, he said, and started writing something in his small book. Given that you said that, can you tell us more about that disorder? Sure, I said. Because of borderline personality disorder is not yet clear, but research suggests that it may be caused by family genes, brain structure, or the lack of serotonin, the happy hormone, in the brain. Environmental, cultural, and social factors also play a role or may increase the risk of developing borderline personality disorder. People who suffer from it have a severe fear of abandonment, have mood swings, are prone to self harm, aggression, and even suicidal thoughts and acts. That's way too complex, the reporter said. How did you and your family cope with your brother's disorder? How was the setup? We were sensitive about it, of course, I said. Since my brother and I are twins, though we don't look alike, our parents had a really tough time raising us. My brother has been struggling with his emotions since we were young. That's why, when he was diagnosed with BPD, it was a roller coaster ride for us. We were forced to attend the same school, and I had the duty to be always around him, to make sure he's always safe and that he won't hurt himself. I was like a bodyguard glued to him, I must say, I said, giving a small laugh. Why was it you? I mean, you are a national artist for painting and really popular lately. Given your looks, you're even endorsing countless product brands now. You might have had a busy life as a child, developing your talent. Did your parents hire caretakers? I mean, you can't just look after your brother all your life, I suppose. No, they did not hire caretakers, I said. My brother could function on his own, and he also had his medications. It was just his emotions that usually flared up, and, apparently, I was the only one who could calm him. He listens to me. But according to your biography, you left the country at the age of 14 and went to England to study. Is that right? Yes, I confirmed. It was when I got admitted in an art school there, after I won a competition whose prize was an exchange program. You said that you were like a bodyguard glued to your brother at that time, and you were the only one who could calm him down whenever his disorder flared up. Did your admission to the art school in England create a conflict? England is too far away, though. It is, actually. I had already received offers prior to that, but my parents had to turn them down since no one will look after my brother in school. Good thing that when his doctor heard about the grant, she suggested that my admission to the art school could be beneficial to my brother since he was already being too dependent on me. Believing that my absence might be part of my brother's independence growth, my parents finally gave me the consent to go to England. And according to your biography again, you came back after 3 years. May we know the reason behind your return? Was the independence growth of your brother not that successful? Well, somehow it was, I said, smiling. He showed great improvements. He even functions normally now. You seem really close to each other. Was there a time that you two fought? None? I asked. I can't remember that we did. Come on, the reporter said. No matter how close people are, there are times that there's a conflict of interest between them. Wait, let me think. Oh, there is. I knew it. The reporter replied, smiling. It happened when I came back from England, and I went straight to his school to surprise him. You were 17 at that time. You must be a senior high school then. Anyway, what was it? What made you fight each other? The reporter asked curiously. I took a sip of my latte and smiled when I looked back at him. We fell in love with the same girl. His eyes grew wild. This interview will go viral, he said, looking straight into my eyes. So, whom did the girl choose? At that exact moment, before I could even open my mouth to answer, the shop's door opened and a woman in her 20s walked in, looking as beautiful as she had always been. She looked around, as if looking for something, and when our eyes met, her black eyes smiled along with her lips. The reporter looked at her too, and looked back at me. I returned his book and smiled at him as our eyes met. Isn't the answer already obvious? I said. At that moment, she walked towards my direction. As I watched her drawing nearer, what happened 10 years ago in high school flashed on my mind, as though it happened only yesterday. It was 10 years ago when we were in high school. People say love will find you at the precise time when you aren't expecting it to come, and will knock you off your senses the moment you least expected it. Whoever said that could be right all along, because that day, I was knocked off my senses. I was at the student park, watching someone getting bullied in broad daylight, while some students passing by displayed no interest to meddle. As if the visual image of a man kneeling and pleading in front of a man, making fun of him, was something pleasurable in their eyes. Wag na yun, please, please. He pleaded, but the guy wasn't pleased. In fact, he looked like he was having fun. You told me you'll replace it today, but I received none. Ain't it right enough for a class president to replace what he broke and fulfill every single promise his fucking mouth blabbered? The guy smirked and looked around at the students, murmuring, Is this the kind of student leader you'll elect? Some laughed and I cringed. I sat on a nearby bench where I could see the commotion. He's perfect, only if he's not way too full of himself. I heard a woman murmur. I looked up and saw a woman wearing a school uniform. She was standing right beside me. Her eyes were at the commotion while her arms were crossed around her chest. A bully. Just how the hell I felt for a bully. She asked herself and smiled as she shook her head. When our eyes finally met, she scanned me and smiled. New student? Perhaps it was because I was in civilian clothes. I didn't answer. I just looked at the guy bullying the other guy. When she realized I won't answer, she sighed and sat beside me. That thing, she said, that's just a normal thing you'll see here. That guy, she said, pointing at the bully. He has the balls to bully someone he likes to bully simply because he's rich. I know it's a cliche, but it happens in real life talaga. Alam ko his family is a part of the school board of trustees. Iba talaga nagagawa ng pera, no? I looked at her. She sighed and continued watching the bullying that was getting severe as the bully started hitting the other guy's head. Laws are implemented to control the poor, but don't affect those who established it, she said, and shrugged. But he's really cute, isn't he? When our eyes met, she smiled. Bago ka lang dito. So if you want a peaceful life, stay away from that guy. Saan school ka pala galing? States ba? Ang puti mo eh. Again, I didn't answer. She had short black hair, whose length was close to her shoulders. She had fair complexion, which made an asset of her black eyes. Teka, Naiintindihan mo ba ako? Nakakaintindi ka ba ng Tagalog? Baka salita ako ng salita. Di pala tayo nagkakaintindihan ha. Tango ka kung naiintindihan mo ako. Dali, dali, she said energetically, as if she was speaking to a kindergarten pupil. This was the first time that someone had shown me an interest this great. It was the first time that someone maintained an eye contact with me, as majority of people would immediately be intimidated by my gaze. Normally, people will get offended with my silence, but this was the first time that someone talked to me this way. Bakit? She asked and frowned. Baka nga di ka nakakaintindi ng Tagalog. Pero okay na rin. Total di ka naman nakakaintindi. May sasabihin ako. She said excitedly. That was when I pulled out my earphone from my pocket. This was my way of saying, I don't want to talk or listen to anything. But right before I was able to plug them on my ears, she stopped me by tapping my hand, which somehow shocked me. Sabi ko may sasabihin ako eh. She said, and when she saw my expression, she laughed. Kaya na, di ka pala nakakaintindi. Kahit mura-murahin kita, okay lang pala eh. She then grinned. As I was saying, she said and pointed to herself, have something to tell you. And then she pointed at me and then she laughed. Hutik! Bakit may pa-action pa ako? Di ka naman pipi. She then looked at me, close to laughing again. Anyway, as I was saying, I have something to tell you. That guy, the bully, I actually have a crush on him for over a year now. And I want to confess it to him, but I'm scared he might reject me and, worse, bully me. What do you think? Will I stand a chance? I didn't answer. I know na wala. Pero minsan biglang susulpot ang mga what ifs. And next thing you know, maaalala mo na lang na what chance would you stand if you're nothing but just a single star in his vast galaxy? Ang hirap, kainis. She sighed. Sarap pala na may nasasabihan, kakaloka. She said to herself. Buti na lang, boplax at alaws na intindihan. But I could understand everything. At that moment, the school bell rang. Shit! Tapos na ang lunch, she said and stood up. Teka, nasa na pala ang pancake ko? Dito ko lang inilagay yun eh. Nung may hinahabol akong prof. She then looked at me. Hey, did you see a pancake here? I left it here eh. Have you seen anything? I didn't answer. I was just looking at her. Just nod if you didn't see it. That'll do. No response from me still. Ayaw ba niyang nagsalita kasi wala siyang nakikita o hindi lang talaga niya ako maintindihan? Baka naman kinain niya yung pancake ko. She asked herself and looked at me suspiciously. Baka nga kinain itong hayop na to. Imposible namang maglaho yun bigla. Ayaw magsalita eh. Baka nasa bibig pa. I looked at her, expressionless still. Can you open your mouth? She said. Is my pancake there? I didn't answer. Ayaw pang sumagot. Feeling Amerikano, magnanakaw naman pala ng pancake. She murmured and cleared her throat. Alam ko, naintindihan mo ko. Sana nabusog ka ha. God bless. Hoy! We both looked at the owner of the voice. It was the bully yelling excitedly at us. After seeing me, he hurriedly ran towards me and hugged me the moment he reached me. When did you arrive, fucker? Why didn't you tell me? Everyone was looking at us. I was about to surprise you, but I was the one who got surprised. He let go of me and cupped my face. Don't think of me as someone just evil because of that, okay? Shit. Since when did you get this tall? I was taller than you when you left for England a few years back. Damn, I missed you. He hugged me again. Everyone's watching, I murmured. Let them. I want everyone to know you're my brother. Brother! A woman's voice exclaimed. My brother and I looked at her. When she met his eyes, she turned madly red and started running away. Who was that? He asked as he watched her run away. No idea, I said. Come, my brother said. I'll introduce you to my friends. I have to go to the admission office first. Why? He asked, and his eyes widened. Are you going to enroll here? Apparently, I said, smiling. Damn! He exclaimed and laughed. Did mom and dad send you here to keep an eye on me again, huh? No, I exclaimed. We're too old for that, idiot. The truth was, yes. My brother had BPD. He had recently been showing aggressive behavior, and only I can handle him and make him listen to me. That was why I stopped pursuing arts in England after 3 years and came back here to keep an eye on him, like what I used to do. The bullying act made me realize I was really needed here. Okay, he said, smirking. I'll pretend I believe you. We laughed. Tara, samahan kita sa admissions. I stood up and started walking with him, but then I noticed people were looking at us. I thought it was normal, but then I heard laughter. Right before I could ask why, I felt something fall off from my butt. As my brother and I checked what fell off, confusion swallowed us. Pancake? He asked, dumbfounded. Is this how you consume pancakes in England? You fucking sit on it and paste it on your ass? And then I remember the woman asking for her pancake earlier. Just how the hell did I fail to see the pancake on the bench? And worse, sit on it. Before I could move while my brother was hilariously wiping out the pancake syrup from my jeans, I saw a familiar figure from afar. When our eyes met, she turned her back again and ran away, her short black hair swaying in the air. Her movements were telling me she was panicking. At that moment, I never knew that the simple interactions with her will turn our world upside down. That a linkage between three clueless strangers had been made and will later cause something I'd consider as an enigmatic catastrophe. I watched her as she slowly disappeared from my sight. A week passed and I was able to adjust. My brother, on the other hand, had a hard time exerting his usual bad temper, aggression, and bullying schemes as I was always around, keeping an eye on him. As soon as the teacher dismissed the class, I immediately packed my things and went to my locker. As I was closing it, a familiar pair of black enigmatic eyes was staring at me. Hi, she said, and smiled. Apparently, she was our classmate, but after what happened last week, she never had the nerve to talk to me again, after realizing I understood every single word she said. She never came anywhere close to me, especially when I was with my brother, although I knew she was observing us from afar. However, this day was an exception for her, since my brother didn't attend class because of a swimming tryout. Without looking at her, I locked my locker and went on my way. Hey! Hey! She said as she caught up with me. Kapag nag-hi ba, dapat ini-snub? Kung may scene zone lang in real life, lalabas na sa mukha ko ang scene, 5 o'clock p.m., she said. She was now walking beside me. I then heard her laugh. Bakit pala scene? Eh baka nga hindi mo man lang inopen. I walked downstairs and she did too. Di pa ako binubuli ng kapatid mo, so I guess di mo pa ako sinusumbong, she said. Alam mo, di ko pa rin maisip na magkapatid kayo. I mean, siya sobrang gulo, tapos ikaw sobrang tahimik. Saan kayo ipinaglihi? I didn't say anything, as if she was something non-existent. Ako kasi sa gatas ako ipinaglihi, kaya siguro medyo maputi ako. Hindi man ako kasing puti mo, pero sa aming magkakapatid, ako ang pinakamaputi, she said casually, even grinning to herself. That was when I had enough. Couldn't she see I wasn't interested in anything? She continued talking about random things. I pulled out my earphone from my pocket, and to my great shock, she tapped my hand so hard that I dropped my earphone and exclaimed, Fuck? To my great amusement, she laughed. Napakatahimik mo pero ang lutong mo pala magmura ha, she said, laughing. At narinig mo pala ako. Akala ko nakamute din ako in person. Di ka kumikibo eh. I glared at her, expecting her to shake with fear and intimidation like any other people I had glared at would feel. Surprisingly, I saw nothing but amusement on her face. Oh, she said. Ang ganda pala ng mga mata mo. May pagka-gray. Sure ka, wala kayong ibang lahi? Just what was wrong with her? I picked up my earphone without a single word. I was about to walk away when she said, Saan ka pupunta? Look, I said, finally losing my temper. I don't know what made you think we're that close for you to act this way, but please, be reminded that we're not. I don't even know you, and I have no interest in knowing you. So if you don't mind, please stop wasting my time. She looked into my eyes deeply. She was expressionless until a smile curved on her lips. Your voice sounds good. You should talk more. Baka mapanis ang laway mo. Wala lang kakain yan. Sige ka. Wait. What? Ay, potek. Ang baboy nun. She added and grinned. I felt like I was about to lose my sanity because of this woman. I sighed hard and turned my back. Saan ka pupunta sabi? She asked again. Hindi mo ba papalitan yung pancake ko? I looked at her with disbelief. Ilan ba ang nakain mo dun? 1/4? 1/2? Itinago mo pa talaga by sitting on it, ha? You could have asked me if you want to eat it. Papayag naman ako kung gutom ka talaga that time. Pero yung upuan mo dahil nahihiya ang malaman ko na kinagatan mo yung pancake ko, she said, while her hands were crossed. I was at a loss for words with this woman. Ain't it right enough to replace what you broke and fulfill every single promise your fucking mouth would blabber? She said and smiled. Your brother said that. Now live with your brother's principle. And don't play the double standard card just because you're rich. She inched our gap. Tara, sa kantin. Samahan mo na ng lemonade for penalty fee. She smiled and turned her back. She started walking and I was left there, standing, dumbfounded. She looked back at me after she noticed I wasn't moving. Won't you come? She asked. Do you want me to carry you or something? I sighed. This woman was utterly unbelievable. It didn't stop there. Whenever my brother was at his swimming trainings and he was not around, well, that gave her the opportunity to ruin my silence. She will come to me, talking about anything, as if I was an old friend of hers. Sometimes, when I was eating alone, she would sit beside me, asking me to share my food, and we'll talk about the latest happening on her favorite TV series. Sometimes, she'd walk with me, even teasing my silence because I never replied to anything she was saying. I never even looked at her or meet her eyes. I pretended that she was non existent, hoping one day she'd finally give up. But I was wrong. The more time that passed, the braver she became. She was even able to find my social media account and chatted me daily about her thoughts and rants. She would even mention me to memes about quiet people. I even had her messages junked in ignored messages out of complete annoyance. It used to be, I would glue myself to my brother to make sure he was safe. But now, I was gluing myself to him, making sure I was always with him so that this strange woman won't come close to me. It was the only way to avoid her. My brother seemed to notice this and asked me if someone was threatening my safety. That was why I glued myself to him, and he said he'd sort it out himself. But how would I tell my brother that it was nothing but a weird woman? And the only way to avoid her from pestering me was by being by his side. Aside from the fact that since she liked him, and contradictory to her annoying personality, she was shy around him. In fact, as we were queuing up for a meal at the school canteen, I saw her standing just 2 people away from us. She never looked at me even once, which was something I was grateful about. Ha! Ito lang pala ang makakapagpataob sa'yo, ha? I thought, making me smirk. When she got her order, she walked away without even throwing a glimpse at us. I smiled wildly. The devil had been defeated. When my brother and I reached the counter and took our orders, the cashier said I will be charged extra for some of the other things I took, which was something I couldn't recall. Sabi po nung babae, sa inyo raw po i-charge, the cashier said. Babae? My brother blurted out, smiling at me, teasing me. Ano po yung kinuha? I asked, not meeting my brother's eyes. Pancake and lemonade po, sir. A beat. When did I get those? Wait. Shit. I closed my eyes tight, controlling my temper. Sige po, I said calmly. Bayaran ko na lang. My girlfriend ka na agad? My brother asked in a teasing tone. Ikaw ha? Nag-England ka lang, naging fuckboy ka na. Gotta tell me about it. Since when did you become secretive? Dati lang, sabay pa tayo maligo ah. But I didn't answer, as my eyes were wandering, looking for something. As soon as my eyes landed on the woman with short hair, and whose gaze avoided mine, it was answered. The questions lingering in my mind when I saw the lemonade and pancake on her table. When will she stop pestering me? Since then, I glued myself to my brother all the more. I made sure she wouldn't be able to come anywhere close to me, since she somehow creeped me out. Apparently, it became effective. She couldn't come close to me, and I could only see her sometimes looking at us. My brother, on the other hand, had been receiving letters lately. Did he have a new admirer? I found out he had been receiving the letters daily for over a year now. But as to who was sending them, I had no idea. But I knew who it was, and it was way obvious to me. It was her, the weird woman. I couldn't be wrong. What shocked me was that my brother wasn't annoyed. He liked it. He anticipated the letter every day, and my mom told me that the doctor said that was a good thing, since it created a serotonin in his body, a happy hormone that made him happy. My mom even said she wanted to meet whoever was sending letters to him every day. That made me think, if it was really her, the thought of that weird woman being invited to our house was creeping me out. Until one fine day, I finally found out who it was. I was outside our school, and I was about to board the passenger seat of our car when someone stopped me from doing so. When I saw who it was, I immediately felt annoyed. Hi, she said with her usual smile. What do you want? I asked. She laughed. You say hello when someone says hi, she said. Anyway, I won't take much of your time. Just give this to your brother and don't tell him it's from me. She added and handed me something. What's this? A letter. I looked at her, shocked. So, it was her. It was she who was causing my brother's system to produce serotonin. Umalis na pala yung kasambahay niyong tumutulong sa akin na ipadala yung letter sa kapatid mo. Wala na akong maisip na ibang tao makakatulong sa akin. Just deliver the letters to him. Don't tell him they're from me, and I won't bother you anymore, okay? I looked at her with disbelief. Okay, she said again and smiled. I'll take your silence as a yes then. Sige na, you look annoyed. Bye. Sus Mariosep, ikaw nga! We both looked at the woman who spoke. She was a woman in her 50s and quite chubby. Kumusta ka na? She asked, filled with emotion, tears visible in her eyes. Before I could even say a thing, the weird woman spoke. Tita, she said. I looked at her. She looked emotional. Umuwi ka na, hmm? Namimiss ka na ng mama mo. She scoffed. She lost a daughter the moment she turned a blind eye to what was happening to me. Umuwi na po kayo. Hindi na po ako babalik. Iha, the woman started crying. I'm doing well po, tita. I am healthy. Nothing to worry about, she said. Umuwi na ho kayo. Eto, kunin mo na lang ito. The woman handed her some money. Ipinabibigay ng mama mo. Hindi ko kailangan, she said. I'm well off. Tignan nyo, may sarili pa akong service. May igsabay pa nga pauwi itong kaklase ko, oh, she said, pointing at me. Wait, what? Kaya umuwi na ho kayo. Kaya ko ho ang sarili ko. Before the woman could speak, the weird woman got inside my car. Tara na, she said to me. Bewildered and not knowing what to say, I got inside the car and sat beside her. When we took off, she sighed heavily and started crying. Our family driver and I exchanged looks through the rearview mirror. I left our house 2 years ago, if you're curious to know, she said when she was done crying. What told you I am? I asked coldly and put my earphones on my ears. She laughed and sneezed through the tissue paper. But to be honest, I was curious and concerned. D15 lang kayo nun, ma'am. Our driver asked. Opo, she said. I closed my eyes, pretending I was not interested and was just listening to my playlist. But in reality, there was no song playing. Saan po kayo tumutuloy ngayon? Our driver asked. I rented a small room, she said. Nagtatrabaho ako ng part-time after classes. Oh, our driver said. Pwede pong malaman kung bakit kayo umalis. Napakabigat naman po ata siguro ng dahilan at umalis kayo. Eh, kidsy pa lang kayo nun. Well, she said, kamuntik na ho akong maghahasa ng stepdad ko. I felt my heart skip a beat. I looked at her and she was smiling painfully, tears visible in her eyes. Tapos, hindi ho ako pinaniniwalaan ng mama ko. Wala eh. Mahal ho niya stepdad ko eh, she added. Her voice had bitterness and pain in it. Sorry ho, our driver said. Hindi ko ho alam na ganun ho pala kabigat. Okay lang po, she said, and sighed hard as she looked out of the window. Sa tabi na lang po, kuya. Grabe na po abala ko sa inyo, pasensya na po. When the car stopped, she opened the door and smiled at me. Don't tell him that it's me or else I'll bother you for the rest of your life, huh? She said, and she finally smiled. When she got off and started walking away, the annoyance I had been feeling about her faded and was replaced by an indescribable emotion. Napakalakas na bata, our driver said. Hindi ko yata kayang mamuhay ng mag-isa ng 15 anyos lang nang walang tulong. As I watched her walking, I saw her enter a convenience store. Nagpapahintay po yung kapatid nyo, our driver said. Malapit lang daw po siya dito. Minutes later, a woman who was now wearing work clothes instead of her school uniform came out to throw trash in the bin. I watched her with mixed emotions. How was her smile far different from the pain inside her? How could she have the brightest smile and the loneliest soul all at once? I wondered. I really did. Since that incident, I started to feel different about her. It was too different that I no longer knew what to feel exactly. It even reached a peak when I found out she was an outcast in school. She had no friends and no acquaintances. She was a scholar, so she had to study hard to maintain the grade requirement and to earn a living at the same time. She's like a ghost, my brother said, referring to the weird woman while he was opening a letter. Nobody knows her. Little did he know, she was the writer of the letter he was excitedly reading. I came to realize how much of an outcast she was when once we were instructed to group into pairs for an activity, and no one wanted to pair up with her. She was almost excluded from the activity. I didn't know what got into me when I abandoned my brother and volunteered to work with her. She could not have been shocked as I was. Since then, she went back to her usual pestering mode. She would bug me all day whenever my brother was not around. She will talk about anything, and I will pretend that she was non existent and won't even talk back to her. The only difference this time, I was no longer felt annoyed. I just allowed her to talk because I had come to realize that maybe she was talking this much because she had nobody to tell about the things that happened to her in the day. Since she lived alone with no one else to talk to, she had to keep everything to herself for a long time. It was lunchtime when my brother and his friends decided to remain in the classroom, since we had an early break. They were dancing and everything until my laughter faded when I saw a familiar figure when I looked outside the window. There she was, alone in the school garden, playing with the school cats. I could see her smiling wildly, her laughter genuine, the way the wind blew her hair softly, the way she moved, the way the sunlight touched her skin. Every single thing was aesthetic in my eyes, that the scenery seemed to be contagious, and I found myself smiling as I watched her. What's making you smile that way, huh? My brother asked as he looked outside the window, too. Since when did you like cats? He asked. Tara sa labas, he said and walked away. As I looked back at the window, I saw her holding a cat and looking at me. When our eyes met, she smiled and waved. I felt as if an electric current flowed through me. I didn't respond to her smile. I just leaned my back against the wall, looking blankly in the air, feeling my heart beating so fast, as if it would burst out of my chest. That smile. That damn smile. I closed my eyes tight. Why was I feeling these things? Why was my heart racing so fast? Why did I feel the electric current in me? And why did I feel not just the butterflies, but the entire zoo in my stomach? What was happening to me? Was I ill? Or did I like her? My eyes widened. The hell? Me? Was I out of my mind? That woman? Of all people? No, it could not be. Both the thoughts of I like her and the image of her smiling that time never put me to sleep the following days. There were times that I couldn't even meet her eyes whenever she talked every time she handed me the letter for my brother. Whenever I caught her smiling at me, I could feel them. The racing heart, the electric current, the zoo. They were driving me nuts. Until one day, I finally figured out if I really liked her or not. It was Friday, when we came back from our gymnasium after our PE class. The room was in chaos. According to some bystanders, a fight had happened. Apparently, one of our classmates' wallet went missing. There was only one suspect, and it was the weird woman. They said she was the only poor student, and she was most likely to steal money. She's in the guidance office, one of the students said. Grabe, paano nakapasok ang mga magnanakaw dito? But I doubted it. I didn't know. I couldn't just believe it. I'll go ask for a CCTV footage, I said out of nowhere. Didn't you hear them? My brother said. The system had been down since yesterday. Better try than do nothing, I said, tensed and ran towards the security office. I explained things to the security team, and they left for a moment. I was left alone in the office when the door opened. Did you get anything? Our class president asked nervously. He was sweating, and his fingers were trembling. I looked into his eyes. It's you! He looked like the heavens had landed on him. Let me explain, he said. I only did it because. So it's really you? I said, shocked. Damn, I was only kidding. The security team just had their lunch break and told me the system is down in our building, so there's no footage. Well, what? He exclaimed, dumbfounded. No wonder why you came here in a hurry, because it's really you. Let me explain to the guidance office and not to me, dumbass, I said, impressed with my wit. But, didn't you hear me? I said. Go to the guidance office and admit your crime. Someone else is being punished for the crime you did. Sort that out. He scoffed. Sort that out? Whom are you kidding? I looked at him in disbelief. Why will I admit to a crime if there's no evidence against me? What? I said. Do you hear yourself? Someone's taking the blame for something you did, and you let her fucking suffer for it? Why not? He asked, as if she belongs in here. That was when I lost my cool. Without me uttering anything, a punch flew straight to his face. The next thing I knew, I was on top of him, banging his face with punches. You'll come with me and you'll admit you stole the money, you piece of shit. Do you understand? He laughed as blood came out of his mouth. You can't, he said. Do you know why I stole the money? It's to buy that fucking camera, so your brother would stop bullying me, for fuck's sake. If I tell them I stole the money to buy the camera, I'd tell them it was because I was getting bullied. Do you think I'll go down alone? No. I'll bring your brother with me. Dickhead! I shouted and started beating him up again until a security personnel came in and stopped us. Next thing I knew, I was in the guidance office. The guy was in front of me, and he was laughing. When I looked around, I saw that the weird woman was also there and she was crying silently. I will talk to you two once this stealing thing is over, understand? The counselor said to me. Won't you really admit that you stole the wallet? The counselor then asked the weird woman. I did not, the weird woman said, crying. I told you already so many times that I did not. Liar! The female student who owned the wallet said. Ikaw lang ang nakakita kung saan ko inilagay. I looked at the guy in front of me and he was grinning. If I told him it was him, I'd be able to save her. But my brother will be in danger and his BPD might worsen. I shut my eyes tight, torn with the dilemma. Maraming witness, the counselor said. Just admit that you did it. If you do that, we won't include it in your academic record. And we will still issue you a good moral conduct so you can transfer to another school maybe next week. What? Well, she said, shocked. What do you mean? We don't tolerate stealing in the school, the counselor said. We have to expel you. My eyes grew wild. Only expulsion? The other student asked. Shouldn't we call the police for this? Oh, but I didn't do it. I swear, Mom, I didn't. The counselor then gave her a sheet of paper. Just sign this. the counselor said. It'll be for the best. But she gave countless oppositions, but a decision had been made. She cried hard until she was left with no choice, so she agreed to sign the paper. Shit! What do I do? I could do something! She held the pen and was about to sign it when I suddenly, I did it! I said. Everyone looked at me, shocked. "Uh, I'm sorry?" the counselor asked, dumbfounded. I said I did it. I stole the wallet. Mister! the counselor explained. How could that be possible? Your parents are rich, I know, I said. But can't I be broke? I told you I did it. It is more than just an evidence. I admit it. Expel me. They gasped. I could feel her looking at me. But, the counselor said, caught off guard. Why? You can't? Because of my parents? I said and stood up. When someone said laws are implemented to control the poor, but don't affect those who established it, I never knew this moment could be it. I looked at the weird woman and she finally stopped crying. Hi. I greeted her, but she didn't answer. When someone says hi, you say hello, I said, imitating her. Can you run fast? I asked. Huh? She asked, confused. Run away with me, I said, looking deep into her eyes. What? It's not a question, so you can't say no. The next moment I knew, I had grabbed her hand and we ran out of the room while the counselor was calling us. The students in the corridor were all looking at us until we were finally out of the campus, panting. What has gotten into you? She asked, catching her breath. I felt the surge to be rebellious. Is this puberty? I guess so, she said, laughing, and we ran again as we were being chased by the school guard. That day, we had something more than just fun. We had life. We went to public places, amusement parks, the Yoke Hub, and in the nearby malls. We even ran out of money and had to drink from a dancing water fountain, and it tasted like shit. We just kept on laughing and having fun, as though it was gonna be the last day of our youth. I never knew that life could be this exciting, breaking the norms and being rebellious. We even talked about first impressions, and I laughed so hard about the pancake incident. It was when the sun began to set, and we decided to go home. We both lived near each other, and were now about to part ways. Thank you, she said, for saving me. I didn't save you, I said. I just did the right thing because someone told me not to play the double standard card, just because I'm rich. We laughed, and we remembered that moment. I thought you were like a robot whose moves are calculated, she said. But it turned out you're cool. You really are. I almost felt myself blushing. Anyway, I'm going home, she said. Sure, I said. Then, at that moment, we inched both our height and, slowly yet magically as it may seem, her lips touched my cheek. I was stunned and my heart skipped a beat. Bye, she said, panicking and started running away. I opened my mouth, but no word came out. Jaw partly dropped. I watched her running away. I touched the part of my cheek she had kissed. I remember how soft her lips were, and I felt my cheeks burning. Suddenly, a smile curved on my lips. Fuck. So it was real. I bit my lower lip. I liked her. There was no point denying it anymore. With a fluttering heart, I went home. However, as soon as I walked inside our house, my smile faded as soon as my mom gave me a slap that made me go back to my senses. How far can you disappoint us? She explained so loudly that it echoed in our whole house. Stealing money and running away? Is that how we raised you? How are we going to face the entire school with that? My dad glared at me before he turned his eyes on the newspaper and shook his head. You're not going back to England to pursue that useless art? I looked at my mom, shocked. And you're going to throw away those filthy art materials? Is this what they taught you in art school? To embarrass your family? I felt my heart break. You'll stay here and look after your brother. Otherwise, look for a new family. Go to your room before I disown you. With my heart broken into tiny million pieces, I went to my room, only to find a maid with all of my art materials being trashed out, with nothing left. I sat in my bed without blinking. I was the happiest person a few minutes ago, and now I was close to a mental breakdown. Utang ba sa mundo ang pagiging masaya na dapat pagbayaran ng kalukutan pagkatapos? I sighed hard until the door opened and my brother came in. If you'll just comfort me, please, don't. I might cringe. We laughed. Why would I? He said. You were so cool doing those, though. I'm envious. As if bullying isn't enough for you, huh? We laughed. That was when I noticed his eyes were red. I suddenly got worried, knowing my situation might cause his BPD to flare up. Don't tell me you cried for me, I said. You wish, he said. Actually, it's because of the sender of the letter. She hasn't written me anything for a week now. I got petrified. Perhaps she doesn't like me anymore. Perhaps she felt she stands no chance with me, but she has. I wrote letters as well for her. My replies to her letters, and they were over 400 now, and I don't know who she is, and I have no idea where to send them. I felt pain in my chest seeing how genuine a person my brother was. I know it's silly, but I think I love her. Is it really possible to fall for someone you haven't met yet? I think it is genuine love because I fell for her without knowing anything about her, and it's driving me nuts. I might just die if I wouldn't be able to see her, and I'm not exaggerating. Surely he was not exaggerating. That was why I got alarmed. I know you promised her you won't tell me who she is when she asks you to deliver the letters, but can you break that promise for me? Please? I'm dying to see her. Help me, bro. Please, I'm begging. I could see how real his feelings were. I faked a smile. Of course I will. I'll tell her when I see her. Really? He exclaimed, his face brightening up. Damn, best man. With that, he hugged me and my smile faded as the chest pain continued to ache some more. I shut my eyes tight. We fell for the same girl. Can life really be this cruel? Since then, I became aloof. Aside from my parents being cold to me, the whole school was, too. I just continued studying and staying close to my brother's side, since he was becoming emotionally unstable, following the incident with the letters. Another week passed, and he still received nothing. People with BPD have a severe. Another week passed, and he still received nothing. People with BPD have a severe fear of abandonment, linked with emotional disturbance and self harm. He was too attached to her that it made his emotion unstable again. There were times we would see random cuts and bruises on him, and he even tried to overdose himself with sleeping pills, hoping he won't wake up anymore since the emotional pain was killing him alive. For some people, this may be an exaggeration, but as someone who grew up with this mental disorder, this is reality. It happens, and they are not exaggerating. My parents, of course, were worried. They even stayed at home with him while I was attending my classes just to make sure he won't try to kill himself again. The only thing that cheered him up was my promise to finally talk to her about him. And I tried to. But whenever I tried to, I was always stopped by emotions that were filling me up inside. I ended up ignoring her, avoiding her and her eyes the whole time. When I entered the room, I saw her standing at the window, looking outside. Maybe this was the perfect time. I just had to talk to her and open a topic about my brother, and that was it. However, the courage that arose inside me faded away the moment our eyes met. She smiled at me, but I just looked away and turned my back. How could I talk to her about my brother? What if she still liked him? Can I really take an emotional torture? Or what if she had stopped sending him letters because she liked me now? Would I be able to handle the guilt that I was the reason why my brother was devastated and almost killed himself? These thoughts were killing me, and I felt like breaking down and just cry. When the class ended, I went out only to see my mom waiting for me outside. I talked to your advisor about your brother's absence. I thought maybe we can go home together with the girl. Where is she? She asked. I didn't see her, I said, lying. My mom closed her eyes and sighed. Come up with a lie about it. Tell your brother you talked to her, but she's not available right now. Anything. Yes, Mom, I said. But before we could get into the car, someone held back the car's door. Wait lang, she said, panting. Her short hair was kinda messy. 5 minutes. My mom looked at her and then at me. Her eyes were inquisitive. To my surprise, he handed me a letter. My mom looked surprised too. Th- Thanks, I said. I'll give it to him and it's for you. A beat. What? I said, looking at my mom, who was shocked. Don't give it to your brother, it's for you, she said and smiled. I'll wait. Just like that, she walked away without looking back. While on her way home, no one was talking between me and my mom. Afraid of what the letter contained, I thought of not opening it until we reached home. But my mom finally spoke before we could get off the car. It's her, right? She asked. Yeah, I said, uneasy. Why did she give you a letter and not your brother? No idea, I said. Are you two dating? I gulped. No. Good, my mom said. Open the letter. I looked at my mom, flustered. Open it, she reiterated. I want to see what's inside. My heart was beating so fast. What could be its content? As an obedient son, I opened the letter. What does it say? My mom asked. Meet me at the garden tomorrow before class, I read. Why would she like to meet you? I don't know, I said, though I already had an idea. She will confess, of course, my mom said. Can you believe it? Your brother wants to kill himself, and the cause is you? I felt a sudden guilt. If something happens to your brother because of you, you might consider yourself as orphaned. Do you understand? Opo, I said, feeling a massive chest pain crawling into me. Give that letter to your brother, my mom said, which made my eyes widen and look at her. Let them meet, my mom said. Dump her. Before I can even say anything, my mom opened the car door and walked outside. I was left inside, dumbfounded, in lethal pain. Suddenly, tears started to form in my eyes. How could you let go of the only thing that made you happy? When I had gathered myself together, I went inside the house. As soon as I handed the letter to my brother, for the first time since his breakdown, he smiled so wide and so genuine. He started being energetic, screaming that finally she wanted to meet him, that she didn't dump him after all. I could see how happy my parents were, and how the simple letter painted color to my brother's dull emotions. The biska talaga, my brother said, hugging me. My mom looked at me. I smiled weakly. Of course. Remember my promise when we were children? I will be strong for you during the times that you are weak. I will surrender everything for you. I'm your brother, after all. His hug tightened. I love you. And suddenly, the image of a woman with short hair and black eyes came into mind, and she was smiling while playing with the cats in the school garden. Countless flowers were blooming around her, while the sunlight added aesthetic to her already beautiful aura. I smiled painfully with her image still in my mind. I uttered, I love you more. The following day, they met. The next thing I knew, my brother came at me angrily in the classroom. Why the hell was she expecting you to come instead of me? He exclaimed. She's our classmate and you even ran away with her, yet you didn't say a single thing to me. What was that? Calm down, okay? I said. Let me explain. What the hell's going on? Were you dating behind my back? Did she stop writing to me because she likes you now? Do you like her? Let's talk calmly, okay? I am asking you, do you like her? That was when I couldn't open my mouth. I want to say yes. I want to let him know that I did. I want to be confident about my feelings, but the pain in my brother's eyes was something I couldn't handle. No, I said. No, of course. Then why was she expecting you? He asked, and his face started to soften. I don't know, I said, and I clearly don't care. I gulped. That hurt. He then talked on his phone. Hey, did you hear it? My brother said he doesn't like you, and he doesn't care about you. You heard it? I did. We both looked back when someone spoke from behind. It was her. Her phone in her ears, tears in her eyes. Good thing you're here, my brother said. Now, bro, tell her what you told me. Go on. I looked at her and met her eyes. Why was looking at her enough to make my heart flutter? I wanted to look at her eyes deeply, play with her cheeks, give her lips countless kisses. and have her hand intertwined with mine. I want to hug her, be selfish, and run away with her. Go on, my brother said. Why was she like an orbit? And I was nothing but a planet helplessly revolving around her. Tell her, my brother said. I liked her. I want to sleep with her in a dark room while listening to our favorite songs. I want to raise cats with her. God, I was in love with this woman to the point that it was making me cry. Tell her, my brother encouraged. I gulped as I looked into her eyes. I don't like you. I said directly and I felt my system shut down. I never did. I saw tears start to fall from her eyes. Without saying anything, I walked past her. I immediately went to the restroom and bursted out crying. How do you look at someone you love and convince yourself it was time to let her go? Was I just dreaming? Was it just a nightmare? If I woke up from this dream, will I see her again? I thought the last incident could no longer be more cruel, but I was wrong. She sent me a new letter. It had been over an hour since I received it from our driver, but I couldn't take my eyes off it. I know there's a reason behind those words. Meet me at the dancing fountain we went to before at 8 p.m. tonight. No matter what happens, I will wait for you. I closed my eyes tight and sighed. 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and finally, 8 p.m. came. My brother was getting better. I couldn't be more selfish and cause pain to my family. 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight. I was looking at the ceiling of my room just after I had written the poem, hoping to fall asleep afterwards, until I heard a soothing sound. When I looked towards the window, I saw the rain pouring hard outside, as if the heavens were drowning the world. May bagyo ba? I asked myself. Suddenly, I remembered that the dancing fountain was an open space. At wala siyang masisilungan kung sakali. I started to feel worried. Was she still there? No way. At that moment, my room opened and my brother came in furiously. Without uttering a word, a punch made me fall off from my bed. She's been waiting for you for 4 fucking hours and you're just lying comfortably on your bed? I touched my lips and I tasted blood and looked at my brother. If something bad happens to her, I won't forgive you, he said and slammed the door shut. 4 hours? It meant she was still there? My eyes widened. I hurriedly grabbed my jacket and put the poem in my pocket and started running. Fuck. She was still waiting for me under this heavy rain? Damn! I was about to go outside when my mom spoke. Where are you going at this hour? Mom, I uttered. Going to her? My mom asked. Our driver told us about the letter. Mom, I said. She's still waiting for me there. So? My mom said. Didn't we agree you'll let her go for your brother? Yes, Mom, but this one's different. There's a heavy rain and go back to your room, my mom said. Think of the emotional effect of this to your brother once he finds out you're going to see her at this hour. Mom, he's waiting there and probably getting soaked with the rain. Your brother, can you please stop bringing him up for Pete's sake? For the first time in my life, I raised my voice at my parents. I know my responsibilities, Mom. But everything is not about him, I exclaimed, tears forming in my eyes. How dare you raise your voice at me, my mom said. Everything is not about him. Since when did you get selfish? Selfish? I repeated and smiled bitterly. Ever since I was a child, I had to look after him because of his situation. I even failed to make friends because I had to stick with him all the time. I rejected offers that will take me away from him. I even dropped out of art school because I was needed here. When we were little, I had to let him take all the toys he wanted, while the leftovers ended up with me, because I had to understand that I had to take into consideration his situation. And there was no problem with that. When I encountered hardships in school, you never heard me asking for help. Even when I went to England, you heard no complaints from me because I didn't want to bother you since you were always preoccupied with him. I had sacrificed so many things, even my youth, my first love, only to be called selfish? Are you saying we failed as parents? My mom wanted to know. No, mom. I just want to let you know that he's not your only son. Anak niyo rin po ako. Pero bakit parang kasangkapan lang ako dito? Can't you just be happy for me that I am pursuing what I love the same way you are happy when my brother's doing what he loves? Ma, I'm not asking for you to look at me the same way you do him. Gusto ko lang iparamdam niyo naman po sa akin na anak niyo rin ako. Tears started to fall from my eyes, and so did my mom's. Bakit naman po ganun? How many things do I have to sacrifice? Does seeing me happy make you feel bad? Don't I deserve happiness just for once? You know how weak and vulnerable your brother is. We are treating you that way because between the two of you, you are stronger. Just because I'm strong enough to handle the pain doesn't mean I deserve it. I said and looked into her eyes. I'm sorry, Ma. This time, I will pursue what I like. I will go to her no matter how you object. I'm sorry. But before I could even step outside, my mom said something that made me stop. Go to her and you're disowning us as your family. Ma! I exclaimed. Set your foot outside and you'll have no family to come back to. You have my word. She then turned back and walked away while I was left there, flying along the heavy rain, dying. In a snap, I immediately went back to reality, as if what happened 10 years ago happened only yesterday. Isn't the answer already obvious? I said, and looked back at the reporter who had the same surname as mine, and I smiled weakly. It's you. My brother, who was now a reporter, was shocked, as if he didn't expect that. Hey, what are you doing here? I asked the woman as soon as she reached us. She kissed the reporter, which was my brother, and smiled at me. Just want to see how the interview is going. Bakit, bawal? She said jokingly. My eyes saw their wedding rings they had been wearing for 3 years. Well, feel free, I said as I drank my latte. 10 minutes break muna, my brother said. CR lang ako. Sure, his wife said. Ako rin, I said and went to the restroom. As soon as I was inside, I stood and peed in a stall beside my brother. Why did you say those things? He asked. Why not? It's an interview, isn't it? Yes, but I think they might make you uncomfortable. I won't talk about them if they did, I said. But, bro, listen, I said. You asked me for an interview to save your company, which is now on the verge of bankruptcy. If you'll include my interview that we fell for the same girl in high school, and she chose you over me, and now you're married with a kid, it'll be a hot topic. And about your BPD, you were able to cope with it. If the public finds out that the reporter and the owner of the broadcasting and publishing company has BPD, but is living successfully without it as a hindrance, you will be an icon. Besides, it is my first ever interview. For the past 5 years that I had been a national artist and model endorser, I rejected all the interviews that had been offered, except this. Can't you see? This is a bomb. In a capitalistic mind, that's good, but if it is good in a capitalistic nature, then we'll go with it, I said as I zipped up. So go outside and fix the setup. I'll prepare myself. My brother sighed heavily before he went outside. I washed my hands, and when I went out, a familiar figure was waiting for me. Hi, she said. Hello, I replied. Now you know how to respond properly, huh? We laughed. Were you waiting for me? I asked. Yeah, she said. I read the transcript's draft and, uh, is it really okay to talk about it? I mean, about what happened between us in high school? Of course, I said. I'm all cool about it. She looked at my face, making sure I was not kidding. She smiled. Okay, she said. Kala ko nga, iniiwasan mo kami. Kaya uneasy din ako sa'yo. Palipad-lipad ka kasi country to country after our marriage, kaya I thought, hindi ka pa okay. I'm glad that you are. Of course, I said, smiling. Anyway, anyway, I just want to say thanks. For what? For not pursuing me, she said, smiling. I used to think it was a tragedy. I cried so hard. I was heartbroken. But without it, I wouldn't be as happy as I am now. I mean, I am happily married with a lovely kid. Who wouldn't be happy for that, right? So, thank you for not coming that night. Sometimes, doing the right thing isn't always the best thing. I smiled. Not because she was right, She was actually wrong. That night, despite my mom's threat that she'd abandon me, I still went out. I ran, dead worried about her safety. I didn't care about anyone and anything anymore. I just wanted to go to her and hug her to melt all my worries. I started running as crazy as hell. I almost got bumped by a car. But just when I arrived there, a few steps away from her, I saw my brother. As soon as she saw him, she ran to him, freezing, and cried in his arms under the shared umbrella. I was soaked in the rain, but I felt my heart just got broken. It felt like I got stabbed multiple times. I wanted to go to her, but I was just a few seconds late to do so. I turned my back, and with my heart slowly dying and my tears flowing as heavy as the pouring rain, I walked away. Looking back, indeed, doing the right thing isn't always the best thing. Like, for instance, not telling her I literally abandoned everything and had the idea to run away with her when I went there for her. I smiled at her more. I agree. Feels good, that we can talk about the past casually. Anyway, I'll just go watch the interview. Don't mind me. Sige, balik na ako sa table. Good luck. I simply smiled at her. When she turned her back and walked away, I could see nothing but her 17-year-old self in a school uniform. Walking away the first time I met her. It made me smile, but this time, pain was in it. I took out a piece of paper from my pocket. As soon as I saw it, nostalgia swallowed me. It was the poem I wrote for her that night. I smiled weakly as I read it with pain in my chest. I can still reminisce how you trapped my eyes with a smile you flashed so nice in the beginning of a blooming spring. I can still sense how your bewitching presence made me feel safe, and how you curved your soul into my system that made me seek for your lips and embrace in every second, in every minute of a fire burning summer. But just like any other love story, the arrival of unforeseen tragedy and an impending death of a once great love could no longer be tamed. Amidst our eyes weeping, hearts breaking, and souls disconnecting, the beauty of every flower faded as the gloomy autumn came. Finally, the blooming spring has terminated. The fire burning summer concluded, and the gloomy autumn halted. The cold wind softly blew that made me think of you. Maybe we were just infatuated, and the beauty of spring deceived our eyes both naked. Perhaps you knew during the summer that our love could not continue any longer. And maybe we were just in love with the sudden bloom that when autumn comes and the beauty of love falls, we panicked, didn't know what to do. We just hurt and wrecked ourselves, gave each other pain and trauma, and to falter ourselves, we called it love. A love so confusing, a love so chaotic, a love so destructive. But was it love? Or we just tried to make things work? Despite all the odds, out of our fear to be alone? Loneliness it is. Silly, isn't it? However, my love, tonight is the last night of your memories piercing my now numb heart. The night that is said to be the last night of the coldest melancholic winter night. As the last page of our four-season love draws nearer to an end, I wished I could go back to the start of the said winter night, where the warmth of your embrace, waiting for me to arrive, is what I crave for. And just like the winter waiting for the usual cold to blow, I will look for you, and I will go to you like the first snow. I smiled weakly as I closed it and looked at her. She was laughing with my brother. What if I went to the school garden that day? Would the future be different? Or if I came to you that rainy night before my brother did, would it be me whom you will marry and have kids with? Would it be me who will give you kisses and hugs every cold rainy night? Would it be my eyes you'll see the moment you wake up in the morning? I wonder. Only if I can go back in time, I will go to the exact same spot where I met you, and I will sit in your pancake again just for our linkage to be made. There, I will see you standing beside me again. Maybe, in that way, I would look at you again through the window as you were laughing with the cats in the school garden, being surrounded by flowers, while the sunlight was touching your skin. Maybe, this time, if you smile and wave at me, I will have the courage to smile and wave back at you. Maybe, with that simple change, an alternative time will be created where you'd look for me while you were running, and your short hair was being swayed by the wind, with a litter on your hand. Maybe, just maybe, from there, we'll meet halfway in the school corridor, and with no one hindering us, as we were now brave enough to be selfish for our love. We will look at each other, with wide smiles and teary eyes, and just like the winter embracing the first cold night, I will go to you again, like the first snow.